Hi there, and welcome to your Sunday session for This Is Ibrox on Sunday, the 14th of April. Lots to discuss tonight, not a particularly happy camp, as you can probably imagine. My name's Scott Patterson. If you're joining us on your Sunday night, I appreciate you doing that. Thanks very much. Craig Dennett will join us probably in the next 5 minutes or so once he gets his speakers fixed at home. In the meantime, you have to make do with myself and JB. Hi, Jamie. How are you?
Yeah, not so bad. I've had better footballing days, but yeah, I'm sure we'll break into it. I'm hoping this is going to be a therapy as opposed to anything else. So we'll see how we go.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, before we get into the game, I will update you on where we are on the social media. You can get us on X, Facebook, Instagram. We're also available on YouTube, where I would encourage you to like and comment and ultimately subscribe to everything we're doing. Don't forget to hit your notification on. Each time we release any content, you will get a notification to say we are live, and you can jump in and check us out and see what we're doing. From an audio perspective, we're available wherever you get your podcasts, so Spotify, Apple Music Podcasts, whatever they're called. You can get us across on all of those sort of platforms as well. By all means, join us there. If you can, I would encourage you to do that. Lots of good content on there too. And listen, Jamie, I can't put it off any longer. And Craig's joining at a good time, so we'll just try and bring him in. Your take on probably quite a miserable afternoon at Dingwall today.
Yeah, super disappointing, to be honest. I think it's one of them where the Motherwell defeat at home at Ibrox was kind of a free hit for the players in a way, because they kind of done wonders since the break. So it was almost a case of, right, that one's gone. That's the free hit. We bounce back. Do you know what I mean? And to be fair, we kind of did in patches. Obviously, Benfica was squeezed in there, as well as a trip to Easter Road in the cup. So it was kind of, everything was kind of feel okay. And then obviously last week, I think definitely a missed opportunity last week to try and go and get the job done after a nightmare first half. So again, you dust yourself down, you go, right, okay, still in our hands, still in control. We just need to the same mistakes. We're going to continue to make them from now to the end of the season, but let's just see how we go. And I think at the back of our minds, I think we've always had it in our heads that both us and them probably won't go to the end of the season without dropping any points. And unfortunately, we blinked first. So, yeah, really disappointing day, I think, in terms of when the 11 come out. And I know we'll probably break everything down section by section. When the 11 come out, like what I've seen on social media, everyone was saying, wow, just look at the bench and what great options that we've got. And I think that kind of drew us away from some of the decisions that were in the 11. So the likes of Barisic slipping back in and then giving us a Barisic type performance, and then Dow slipping into the midfield, into a midfield three. And obviously the Nigerian nightmare gets a start, and Silva coming in off the left again, and all these things kind of, when the team came out, I think it was almost a case of, yeah, great bench, but we'll, so if things aren't going well, then we've got options. But as it happened, things didn't go well, and then the options that we did have on the bench didn't contribute either. So, yeah, all round, not best pleased.
Craig, hi, welcome.
Oh, I can hear you. I know.
Sorry to disappoint.
We dreamt that we lost points up at Ross County this afternoon. So you've not missed anything, as you can probably imagine. No, I basically, you've just joined us. The question I asked Jamie was what his summary, if you like, from a really disappointing day at Dingwall today.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to put into words, I guess, how deflating that was today. I think we knew that after last week, we felt like we'd given ourselves more of a chance than we'd necessarily expected after the first half at Ibrox in the Old Firm game, and you expect the team to then push on from that. And the team have had a good mentality up to this point, I think, in games, probably excluding the Motherwell game. Really, apart from that one, you think the team has handled the pressure well. They've combated all the injuries and overcome all the injuries that we've faced pretty much the whole season. They've clawed us back into a title race and actually put us in the driving seat. And then something like today happens, and you're like, where did that come from? I know a few people have said they saw it coming. A few people have said that it's been in the post kind of thing, but actually, with this team under Clement, I've had full confidence that every game they turn up, they're going to perform and they're going to win. And they just had that on to the next one, on to the next one, on to the next one mentality, and that was nowhere to be seen today. And it was a really strange performance. Going in 1-0 up at half-time, despite not playing well in any way. It was a really end-to-end game. We gave Ross County plenty more sights of goal than we ever really normally give teams, and that was a concern. But you were creating enough chances that you were thinking, right, we've got the lead, we'll forget the second, and that'll be that. To see 2 quick-fire goals the second half, and then that third one go in was just, there's no other word for it than deflating. And it's really switched the mood, I think, amongst Rangers fans as we look towards the end of the season.
Yeah, and I think that's both. Yeah, I completely agree with everything that you've both said there. I think that there's a mood shift. I think there was everyone went into last weekend relative. No, I don't even know if it was relative. Confident in the sense that we would give a good account of ourselves, I think, last weekend. And I think we've done that for 45 minutes. But the first half was rotten. And I think today we've seen it reversed, where the second half was absolutely awful up the road. And it was, do you know what I mean? And I mean this with a lot, as much respect as I can. It was Ross County we were playing. There is no excuse for Rangers to go up to Ross County and not beat them quite well. And I know that sounds probably cocky and a little bit arrogant, but we're going for a league here. Do you know what I mean? We're in a league race. This is the joys of a title race. And I've said in this podcast before, it's been such a long time since we've been in a title race of sorts, and people do forget what it's like and the ups and downs and the twists and turns of it. But you need to see on the pitch that the players are up for that title race, want to be involved in the title race and given their full application for said same title race. And I think today and for 45 minutes last week, that was probably up for debate, JB. I don't know if you agree with that, if you're in the same sort of place as I am, if you're seeing that sort of lack of, and I loathe to say effort, or it's a mentality thing. And a lot of these guys are going to be tired, regardless of whether you like it or not. A lot of these guys, when the Rangers' careers come to an end, they'll be tired as, I don't like saying losers, they'll be tired as serial not winners. And that's just the way it is when you play in Scotland. You're either a winner or you're a loser. And at the moment, a lot of these guys are going to be screaming out the Rangers' career with very, very little to show for it.
Yeah, I think today kind of showed everything that's worried us this season. I think at times where we've had, as I said to you earlier, this season, I feel as if we've either been on the ceiling or on the floor. There's kind of been no in between. I think our first in between moment was probably coming out of the game last week, because I think pre-match, I think we all looked at that one as, you know what, this is an opportunity for us to show, to your point, the dominance and where this team could go. And then we come out where the second half we did show it. So therefore you kind of think, right, there's something there. It's there. If the players dig in the way that they dug in that second half, we'll be all right. And then, as you say, rolling up today, was there a bit of a mindset of, we'll just roll over these and it'll be absolutely fine? I think the possession for the first 10, 15 minutes was scandalous. The amount of balls we were putting out the park, the amount of balls we were putting 5 yards behind the man. I mean, I don't want to turn this into a bashing for individuals and try and sound as if we're jumping on the same scapegoats. But I thought Tavernier and Goldston started the game, and Barisic, to be fair. They just looked all over the place. It was almost a case of 5-yard passes were going astray. They were going off the pitch. It just felt really uncomfortable to watch. And then you just hoped that when we scored, it was then going to give us that spark. And then, right, okay, not the best of first half, and we'll come out and we'll put these to bed. Subconsciously, I'm starting to think goal difference. As much as you go, right, let's get the 3 points to get down the road. Subconsciously, to your point, the level of opposition, not one of their, I mean, there's people questioning the start 11 and whether it was the right start 11. Not one of their squad gets into our 16 out with maybe Murray or Jordan White for Dessers. And I'm not being, people might go, let's pick on Dessers again. I'm telling you, if we had any other centre forward in Scottish football that starts every week playing the amount of minutes that this guy plays, then you'd be looking at least the same amount of goals, more, or in some circumstances double. So if we're going into that situation where we know the quality of opposition that we're coming up against is that bad, at least if you know you've got somebody that can get on the end of something, scrap you a 1-0 win, he's not going to be the guy to do it, unfortunately. And time again, the same people, the same mistakes keep creeping in. Your Tavernier, Goldson, for some reason, want to man mark each other all the time. One of my pet hates sitting in the Governorship is how many times Goldson wants to be spare, just so, and then Tavernier then comes in, so therefore we've got an overload on the right-hand side, with their left-hand side, our right-hand side. And then Lundstrom is never a 6. We didn't sign him as a 6. He's never a 6. When he receives the ball, he's square to the goal behind him. A good number 6, without going too high level, like a Jorginho or even a Callum McGregor over the other side, they're only half turn already. Lundstrom square, so it's a ball back, and 9 times out of 10 he passes it back to them. When he's playing well and he's confident, he's dropping the shoulder and he spins off. But games like today, all over the place, and yeah, I think literally the scattergun could come out for everyone. Today, I don't think anyone gets pass marks. Cantwell is probably the one, to be fair, who his endeavour and his effort and his creativity was there for all to see. But I think everybody else, including the sub guys that come on, we're back into them realms of we've seen the worst version of everyone today, which was really disappointing given where we've been since January.
Yeah, Scott, I think JB's, I guess, said it there about the scattergun being out, and we can see it in the comments as well. The number of players that are getting it in the neck from fans. But I think for me today, a lot comes down to Flake Clement. A lot comes down to the manager and the decisions that he made, particularly at half-time, not to make any changes. We all watched that first half. No one could be under any illusions that was an acceptable first half, or anywhere near an acceptable first half from our Rangers team. We went in 1-0 up. As I said at the start, we're probably quite fortunate to be 1-0 up at that stage, but you've got the lead, so you've got the chance to make the changes. We've seen time and time again, Rangers have a bad first half, and then Flake Clement gets into them at half-time, and they come out and they're a completely different team in the second half. I was expecting the same. But you could tell from 5 minutes in that midfield wasn't working. That midfield was not working in any way. We missed Diomande massively today. We were so open. We've been open the last few games, actually, which has been a bit of a concern, just at how easy teams are breaking on us and cutting through us. But that midfield, Kieran Dowell, for whatever reason, I've actually been quite impressed with him at times previously, but today was just not a game that he was up to scratch in. He came on for 5-10 minutes at the end of the Old Firm game, and then all of a sudden he's thrown in. We've not been doing that with important players like Abdul Asima and the rest. So why are we doing it with a player that's played a handful of games this season? It's just it was really strange decision making from Flake Clement, and make the changes at half time and you probably avoid those 2 early goals in the second half. But he didn't. He stuck with the same stuff. Ross County ran over the top of us those first 10 minutes of the second half, and we were in real trouble. And after that, you're pushing and you're pushing.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Aaron jumps on and he's kind of agreeing with you. Both wrong team selection, absolutely. The application from the players on the pitch was real. And this is, I've seen loads of bits and pieces, and I think Clement will take sort of part of the responsibility for it. He strikes me as that sort of guy. But I do think that the manager almost he almost can only do so much. The minute you're sort of leaders, in air commas, cross the white line, he's done his team talk. He thinks everything's done. You're relying on your guys. And it's your senior pros probably in the team. It is your guys like Tavernier, Goldson, your Lundströms, for example. Those 3 in particular are the ones that sort of jump out as leading, sort of being the voice on the pitch, bit of direction. And I just don't think you've seen it from any of them today, JB. That's a disappointing thing for me. I think it's 2 games to bounce, where I know we came back in the Celtic game and it was great scoring at the death, but it was an opportunity again that has kind of passed us by. And I seen a stat earlier on. Do you know what I mean? These same players are they've got a really ridiculous sort of points gained over the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks, I think it is. I think before the Hibs game, the last one was some point in February or something like that, and that isn't good enough for Rangers.
Yeah, I think the leadership thing, I think, is a super interesting one. It does feel as if it needs a root and branch change come the summer. I think this leadership group that the manager talks about and heaps praise on at times, and let's have it right, at times the praise has been deserved, but unfortunately I think the praise that's been lashed out since the manager's come in, I think the players have really let them down in terms of to the point there. He sent the players out there, and you'd like to think half time they've had a rollicking to say how poor the performance was, and something along the lines of it. Well, if it doesn't get better, then we're going to be making changes. Do you know what I mean? And then that way you can kind of go, right, we can give themselves a burst for the first 10, 15 minutes, then see how we go. But we just didn't see it. As I say, I don't even think the change in personnel at half time would have seen much difference, just because of the options that we've got. I mean, one thing I've kind of got at the back of my head is, and it is a massive excuse, is obviously the disruption of the week. Now, I'm not saying that was the reason why we lost because I thought Ross County worked harder than us. They were more clinical than us and everything else, so fully deserved the points. But I think in terms of, you're just wondering from a manager's perspective, is his head just been frazzled with everything that's gone on in the week, and how much does that seep through to the players? Because no doubt there was an 11 probably set up for Wednesday to do a job against Dundee. That whole that he probably worked on post Old Firm, that 11, that whole idea has just been wiped completely. And then you then go into the next game and kind of work out. I mean, in my brief management of 6-7 years of managing Sunday League teams, sometimes you had to do that. You had a game on the Tuesday or Wednesday, and then you had a game on a Sunday. But you had to subconsciously think, some of these lads can't play twice a week, so you're going to have to make sure you manage that. So you go out with plan A and then plan B. But that said, back to the leadership group, that's where you need your leaders to be coming through. That's where you need you to have your Golsons, your Butlands, I dare say your Cantwells, who've been there a wee while now, know the score. They need to be stepping up and really grabbing the game by the scruff of the neck. And the only one that seems to be doing it for me is Cantwell. He's the only one that you can see he's got a bit of dig, bit of creativity. He's brave. He's going to give the ball away a lot, but he's trying things. Whereas some of your other guys that are either really, really wasteful in simple situations, or they're just not at it. They're not getting tight enough. They're not getting close enough. They're not going through people. Do you know what I mean? When they tackle, it's a toe that's getting put in. I'd like to see us being a lot more aggressive and just showing that we know what's at stake here. But it just doesn't feel like that at the moment. It feels as if we've it's definitely been 2 or 3 steps backwards today, and the next few weeks is going to be super interesting. I think the way the fixtures fall is going to be mega. Do we want an Old Firm in split game 1 or 2 at the moment? The way things are, who knows? But then you flip that. We win on Wednesday. We win next week. They get knocked out the cup. We're into a final. So it's this is no doubt it's a sore one now.
Scott, just jumping in there, I think I've seen a lot of people, we've spoken about Tavernier there, we've spoken about Golds, and a lot of people have saying on social media they're bottling it again, sort of serial bottlers. That kind of phrasing is kind of going around. Is that a question for you, I guess, turning around on the host and putting you on the spot, but is that something that you agree with, or is that something that you think's over the score a little bit at this stage?
So I'll be perfectly honest with you. I think we're still in a title race here. I've seen loads of people concede it, and I've seen a lot of people sort of think that it's done and it's gone. And I think there's a lot of people who have got their heads in sticks already, frankly, at 9 o'clock on a Sunday night. Listen, it's been a sore one to take today. There's still a lot of football to come, and I do think there'll be twists and turns. I think the problem that we now have is that there's a large element of the support that just now don't trust the players to go and get win after win after win until mid-May. I don't think they think that's capable in this current squad of players. As far as Tavernier and Goldson are concerned with regards to being serial losers, I don't like that term. I don't like that term. On Tavernier, I think you're talking about a captain that's going to leave us with very little. He's one of the few captains I think I've known as a Rangers captain who's going to leave with very little medals to show for his time in Glasgow. That probably disappoints him as much as it disappoints everyone else. Serial losers, I think, is I think it's a harsh term. I can understand why people use it, but I think it's a harsh term. What do you think?
I'm just going to shout out Parkhead Boy and thank him for subscribing. Thank him for subscribing to the channel, because you need to subscribe to the comments. So thank you very much, Parkhead Boy. What do I think? I am unsure at this stage. I think I was all for throwing in the towel earlier on today. The more I've thought about it, the more I've probably calmed down a little bit.
Yeah.
The more you realise that beat Dundee during the week, we're 1 point behind with 5 games to go. Everyone's playing the best five other teams in the league. Celtic have got to go places like Rugby Park and St Mirren, where they've struggled before. We've obviously got to go to Parkhead, and we've got to go to Tynecastle likely as well. So there's going to be plenty of twists and turns on this one. I don't think anyone went into, even before today's game, I don't think anyone went into it and said we're going to win every game through to the end of the season. Pretty much everyone I spoke to said we're going to drop points at some point. Just no one expected it to be today. Everyone expected it to be at Parkhead or at Tynecastle or at some way. And everyone was saying that the other side of the city won't go all the way to the end of the season without dropping points as well. So there will be twists and turns. This today came as a surprise, and I think that's where people's reactions coming from. If we drop points at Tynecastle, you'd maybe go tough game. You'd expect that, but there's every likelihood that we can now go and win it places like Tynecastle. And I think the most frustrating thing about today's result is it takes away a draw at Parkhead being fine. It takes away a draw at Parkhead being an okay result for us. It keeps us ahead, and it now means we need to go to Parkhead and win. And that's where a lot of the frustration is coming from, I think.
But I'll come back to that. JB and I were talking about that just before you joined, and one of a draw at Celtic Park was only fine if all the other games were absolutely seamless, and that supports my point. I mean, do we now trust strangers to go to Dundee again, potentially, to go to Tynecastle again and win the other games? So treat the Old Firm game in isolation, because it is what it is, and it'll be what it'll be. The reality is it's the other games that are dotted out the side of that could become the really, really important ones. The Old Firm game will be, as I say, it'll come and go like any other game, and we'll be frothing at the mouth for 90 minutes unquestionably. But it'll be the games either side of that I think will be the real tests for this current players. Okay, I'm going to start with you because JB made a really good point. He spoke about Clement talking about, and he spoke about it post-match. There's a couple of things I want to bring up about his post-match stuff. But he referred to the disruption midweek, and JB spoke about how he probably had an idea of who was going to start on Wednesday past. Of course he did. Do you think the team that started today would have been the team that would have started at Dundee midweek?
Potentially. I don't know. I don't really see that how that matters, if that makes sense. I don't really see. Yeah. I was surprised and maybe a bit disappointed that Flip Clement brought that out as an excuse. In a way, he immediately followed up with it's not an excuse, but it comes across as an excuse as soon as you mention it. So I was surprised at that, because we're so used to playing midweek, weekend, midweek, weekend, midweek, weekend, that, you know what, if a game's called off, you've actually got more time to rest. The players have got more time to, fair enough, they maybe would have had an extra training session or two, had that game been called off earlier. But outside of that, we're at the business end of the season, and everyone needs to be ready to go whenever they're needed. So I don't know if it would have been the team that started during the week, but I was quite disappointed that was thrown out there, even as a mention kind of thing, because ultimately we've had a full week since the last game. Fair enough, you might have been doing some video analysis on Dundee for the first couple of days rather than Ross County, but as JB said, just after I joined, it's Ross County at the end of the day. We've got more than enough to beat Ross County, no matter which of our players are on the park, and it's up to them to turn up and put in the performance, and it just didn't happen today.
I don't want to single out people individually. Cyril Dessers gets a bit of a rough ride. More often than not, I would say, when we're on. He has a couple of good chances this afternoon. I can imagine John Walker rocking back and forward in his living room with his Lord Shanklin top on, just wondering why we never signed him in January. And knowing that he would have scored all these chances that Dessers has missed. he probably could have gotten the score sheet at least once today, JB, and it will be a game that people will look back on. One of a few I hasten to add this season and say, well, Dessers could have scored 2 or 3 today.
100%, yeah. He's the only thing I can hope is that we get some form of club that maybe has like a Moneyball kind of methodology, and they just look at his stats and go, you know what, he's just gone there and he scored X amount of goals, and we show his goal against Real Betis away just on repeat. Do you know what I mean? And say, look what this guy can do. Real Betis have never lost a game in Europe in 20 years or whatever, and upset Cyril. But no, joking aside, he's just in the wrong movie. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen, and it's delusional if you think that anything's going to be any different from now to the end of the season with him, or I dare say going into next season. There's a reason why he's ended up with us after him having spells in Holland, spells in Belgium, spells in Italy, and nobody ever kind of nailing themselves to keep him. Do you know what I mean? He's never. And no doubt he's a bit of a showlack for me in the fact that he's a journeyman. Do you know what I mean? He's wherever he goes after us, he'll end up in the MLS, or he might end up in the second tier of Belgium or something. But he's just on waiting time now to the end of the season, because he's not going to turn the fans around. I know the fans almost have a little bit of what the Liverpool fans have got with Darwin Núñez, in the fact that there's a hope there that you can see something. And you just hope that they can run with that from till the end of the season. And but he's done. Do you know what I mean? His hold-up play is really poor. When he scores, we're more surprised than gutted. Do you know what I mean? Sorry, not gutted, but we're more surprised than expectations. There will be some Rangers fans that are actually gutted when he does score, to be fair, because it means they can't pound him. But yeah, it's... When he goes one-on-one, I mean, I've been at Ibrox and he goes one-on-one, I don't get off my seat. It's like, there's absolutely no point. And the 2 or 3 chances today that he had, you've got to be clinical. I mean, you could park them under unlucky, because Laidlaw makes a couple of fantastic saves. And then there was the one where the defender was down after a head knock, after pretending he'd been hurt, thinking it was going to be the same referee against Hibs. And it hit him as he was getting back up, whereas he shouldn't have been there, and that would have found the bottom corner. But he's just not the answer. Bring him on to see games out now. We've got to be playing Seaman as the 9, Roof as the 9, Silva. I'm not interested if I don't ever see him again. If he was out of contract in the summer, Silva, would I take him? I don't know that I would. I haven't seen enough to say, even on a free transfer, would I take him? So I'm definitely not throwing money at him. So yeah, that's one thing we're going to need to address in the summer. Again, Stevie Wonder could see in the summer we needed a goal scorer. We needed a number 9. We didn't need someone that was going to run round and beat 2 or 3 men and fire things in. That's not what we needed. We just needed a Chris Boyd, a Lawrence Shankland. You look across even if you look across the way, the players they've had over the years, not great players. Gary Hooper, Scott McDonald's. They're the type of players you need in Scotland that you can you just rely on. Do you know what I mean? They're going to get 2-3 chances in the game and they're going to score 1 or 2. Whereas we've got a guy there that needs 3, 4s and 5s to get 1, and that's not sustainable. And I think, I mean, as much I love the manager. I think he's worked wonders. He's made some, but I think over the last couple of weeks he's made some really foolish decisions and really naive. I don't know whether naive's the right word, because he sees the players in training every week. Scott Wright last week, Dessers again today. I just felt as if certain individuals are going to cause managers problems, and he's one that if it doesn't work out for Phil Clement, we'll remember this season as the season he kept with Dessers.
Scott, just to come in there and a couple of points JB raised, absolutely. Cyril Dessers, he didn't even need to be clinical, really. He just needed to put 1 of 5 away. He didn't even need to score 1 of 1. He just needs to score 1 of 5. And if you can't do that as a Rangers striker, then there's some serious problems. I completely agree with JB that, and I said a wee bit in an earlier answer, that Phil Clement appears to have made some mistakes in the past couple of games, but there's also a bit of balance to that, because when he arrived, we'd all conceded the title already. at that point when he arrived, and that was October time. We thought we were going to have 6-7 months of just going through the motions and getting to the summer transfer window and trying to reshape a team. We've won the League Cup. We're in our Scottish Cup semi-final. We're 4 points behind at the moment with a game in hand, with 5 games left of the league. You can't, albeit today was a shambles. He's worked wonders since he's been here with little to no money. He said that about January. He had his transfer budget was 0 in January, and then he's brought in the likes of Diomande. Cortez was obviously out injured, but he was impressing when he came in. Silva, I completely agree with JB. I'm not on Silva. I know Ross is Ross with the fellow host is a major fan of Fabio Silva, but I am not seeing it at all. And how Wolves paid £35 million for him, I've no idea. Just shows you the amount of money that's flying about in the English Premier League and that kind of area. But I barely see a £5 million player, never mind a £35 million player in Fabio Silva at this moment in time, and that's really disappointing because he was a player that came in with a lot of promise, and you think if he's going to show up even if he shows up on that left hand side for 10-15 games, and we say thank you very much and see you later in the summer, and he walks away with a league title for us, you can't ask for any more. But you saw even when he came off today, he was shaking his head. You kind of wonder what he thinks he did in the game to impress anyone, or you kind of thinks what does he think he did right in the game today, because I certainly didn't see anything.
Do you know the thing that got me as well? One of the things that, and I remember speaking about this in a podcast shortly after Clement came in. You may have been on that podcast actually, Jamie, and one of the things I said was when players are coming off, Clement is actually taking time out to speak to them, make sure they're okay, explain what, do you know what I mean? You're coming off because I want to rest you for the weekend, or I'm just giving you time in your legs. I think he'd done it once with Tom Lawrence. Tom Lawrence came off and he looked absolutely scunnered, and Clement took a good 2.5-3 minutes explaining to him why he was coming off. When Silva came off today, Craig's absolutely right, wandered off, didn't even look at Clement, straight up to his chair. So I don't think that relationship is too clever just now. And for what it's worth, I agree with you both entirely. If he was available on a Bosman, I would not be encouraging the club to go and sort of enhance the squad, if you like, with Fabio Silva, because since he came up, for me, he's been really disappointing. Really, really disappointing. On Dessers, I think the problem that we have with Dessers at the moment, quite clearly, is that we don't have anyone trustworthy enough that can fit into that number 9 position. We know that Silva isn't a 9 and isn't going to score the goals that are going to win you the title. We know that Roof is never, ever, ever going to be fit enough to win you the title. And we don't know anything about Danilo. We don't know if he's good enough. We don't know if he's remotely close enough to being involved before the end of the season. So it's Dessers between now and the end of the season, and that's just the way it's going to be.
Scott, just on the loan players, I guess obviously we're saying Silva we wouldn't take. Sima, Diomande, Cortez. It's a significant chunk of change to just stand still.
Yeah.
In the summer, are you taking all 3 if you can get them? I
would absolutely. So who did you say there? You said
Sima, Diomande, and Cortez. Now Diomande, I don't know if we've got an obligation to buy. I think we do.
So I think Diomande's a done deal. I would take Sima and I'd take Cortez. I would take them both because I think from what we have seen from them, they offer more than the guys that we have just now. I think Cortez looks relatively handy down either side. I want a winger that goes down the line. I want a winger that beats his man down the line. I'm fed up of all of our wingers that come into our club who are known as wingers, bracketed as wingers, make their career as wingers, and they play inside. Do you know what I mean? I know we've saw Rabi Matondo score 2 absolute thunder bastards the last 2 weeks. Great goals, wonderful goals that have came from him cutting inside. He's a winger. Let's be a winger. Do you know what I mean? I was brought up watching fantastic wingers for Rangers. Be a winger. If that's what you're here to do, get on with it. Too often we bring in these wingers and they're playing as inside forwards or advanced 10s or whatever you call them. No, you're a winger. Get on with it. And I think too often we bring these guys in and we try and manipulate them a little bit to suit the football manager directive that follows football these days, frankly. JB, I want to speak to you about John Lundstrom. I'm a big fan of John Lundstrom, like him. Would have been quite happy for him to get a new contract, to be perfectly honest with you. I think he struggled the last couple of weeks, frankly, and I think he struggled quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm a fan, which always comes to me, always works against me with the accent. I think everyone seems to point to John Lundstrom. I don't think what helped us is he got our supporters player of the year for that bit, and it was mainly drilled on the night that he gave us in the game against. I can't help me, mind's gone blank. The semi-final, European semi-final.
Leipzig.
Fucking hell, how's that gone? That's how rattled I am today. He got our player of the year on the back of that, and so people don't let me forget that. But he does look. I think someone just put in the comments there. He just looks tired. He just looks. Everything looks a game too much for him. There doesn't appear to be anybody challenging him for that position. Obviously, Raskin, for whatever reason, seems a million miles away. It's a shame we can't get Sterling back into the midfield. I think we seen the best of Lundstrom when Sterling was in next to him, because he could take turns supporting the back line. He could take turns at driving forward. Whereas if he's in there with a Lawrence and a Cantwell or a Dow today, even a Diamandi to an extent, their job is further up the field. So therefore, he's kind of your link between your defence and your midfield. And I keep maintaining, I don't think it's his best position. John Lundstrom's best games for Rangers are when Ryan Jack's next to him, when Sterling's been next to him. And the theme there is Lundstrom does his better stuff actually driving forward from the halfway line upwards. Not saying he's a goal scorer or anything, but he does a lot of his high pressing, high tackling. He can throw big tackles in sensible positions. But when you're playing as the 6 and you throw in a big tackle, you're probably in booking territory, because 9 times out of 10 teams are trying to break against us. So I do feel sorry from that respect. But at the end of the day, if we're not winning games and we're not winning titles and not winning trophies, I don't care who you are and what emotional connection people have to people, then everyone's in the firing line. Tavernier, again, everybody will say you wake up tomorrow and people will have a level of sympathy for him because of some of the outputs he does give us. My concern with Tavernier, I don't think he's given us much going forward now other than the penalties. I think that's just because of the way Clement set the team up, in the fact that Tavernier's doing a lot of his stuff from deeper. I did notice Seema was tucking in a lot more today to allow Tavernier to get around the outside, which was good to see at times. But I can't recall his last quality whip from the right-hand side, the right-back position or the number 7 position to a striker. You know, if you think about the Danilo header late on against Hearts, that was a proper Tav cross where you'd whip it in and just get on the end of that someone. We haven't seen one of them for what feels like months. I do think Goldson is a problem now, and I've been a massive defender of Goldson, especially within our club, because people are constantly criticising the same people. What I don't like is when people jump on the back of somebody else because you think it's the right thing because everyone else is. And I thought John Souther was shocking today, but we'll not get one mention on social media. We won't talk about him tonight, just because of the fact that there's somebody else that's been worse and somebody else that's probably an easier target because they've been here over time. However, that said, I would have no hesitation to see a back four of Tavernier, Souther, Balogun, and I dare say Barisic on next week, and that's only because I want Sterling in the midfield, not because I want Barisic at left back.
Just on the Dujon Sterling and John Lundstrom complementing each other point, I thought it was really interesting that Dujon Sterling actually was on the bench while Kieran Dowell was picked. Is that something that surprised you both?
Yeah, I don't know whether. I mean, one thing we will never know. We don't know what goes on behind the scenes as well. You don't know who's carrying a niggle, who's carrying a knock. We'll never kind of know that. For me, that was a disappointment when I seen the 11. I did think, could we have done with a bit more in there? But then, if Kieran Dowell does an appearance like he did, was at Motherwell away when he came in and he absolutely bossed it. I think he was. But to be fair though, I think he was more of a 10 that day. But yeah, why wasn't he in there? It's a question for the manager, isn't it? But yeah, it's so many questions. But where's Ridvan? Bring Ridvan back.
Well, we will speak about Ridvan before I let you disappear. I think Dujon Sterling is a shoe-in to start on Wednesday night, an absolute shoe-in. And I think it was the only reason he never started today. I don't think. I think it shows just how much Clement felt that the 11 he picked to start today would have dealt with Ross County reasonably easily. And I completely back that. I couldn't agree more with him, because the 11 that started, regardless of how often Dowell's played, and Craig, I speak to your point about, I'm just appearing out of nowhere. I completely agree with that. I would have loved to see them get, it's like Alex Lowry suddenly starting at the weekend. I like Dowell, and I've seen enough of him to think that I think he could be a reasonably decent squad player. He never showed it today, but he wasn't alone. He absolutely wasn't alone. I just want to very quickly, I'm aware we've not spoke about the game at all yet, by the way, but I think everyone knows what happened, so we don't need to go into detail. Craig, this is an interesting one. This was our starting 11 today. Butland, Tav, Goldson, Suter, Borna, Lundstrom, Dowell, Cantwell, Sima, Silva and Dessers. Who's going to be there next season?
Wow, what a question. I'm not convinced Jack Butland's going to be there next season. From what I think, Tav and Goldson will be absolutely there next season. Just both signed long-term contracts recently. Both big players, both big leaders. No matter what people think about how many mistakes they've made this season or whatever, both big leaders in that team. Suter will be there. I don't know what role Suter will be. I'm less and less convinced by him in that left-sided central defensive role the more I see of him. I accept John Walker's consistent campaigning for him to be put on the right-hand side of the defence. We've seen how good a defender he can be when he was at Hearts, so we know it's there. But he's made too many mistakes so far. I think our strongest partnership currently is Goldson and Balogun. Yeah. To be honest, I think that's our strongest central defensive partnership. We've not really seen it since Balogun got injured with that head knock. Barisic, absolutely not. He shouldn't be there this year. Never mind next year. Midfield wise, Lundstrom. I was 2 weeks ago. I was offering him a 2-year contract. Now it's just a wee bit of doubt in my head. I don't know where I land on that one. Dowell will be a squad player. Cantwell, absolutely. Dessers, I'd be surprised if he was there. If he is there, he absolutely can't be anywhere above third choice striker. Yep. Maybe at best. Sima, I hope is there. Silva won't be there. I think is that 11 players I've mentioned? Hopefully that's our 11.
And we never rehearsed that before we came on, by the way, so we answered that perfectly. Well done. JB, same to you. I mean, when I looked at the list, the guys that I thought that probably wouldn't be there next season, Butland, Barisic, Lundstrom, and I've got to be honest, I did wonder if Sima, Silva and Dessers, the three, wouldn't be there next year, because there's going to be outlay for Abdallah Sima, let's be honest. And I think Craig referred to it earlier, how the bosses spoke quite openly that he's used a big chunk of his budget already. So I think we have to be probably pretty honest even now, mid-April, and understand that we're going to sell a big player at the end of the season to generate some cash to bring in guys. The only person I think they can sell, if they're not going to sell Ridvan, is probably Jack Butland. Yeah.
I think sorry, maybe and I think Nico Raskin as well is one that could be sold in the summer. The fact that Joe came in to the midfield today screams that Raskin isn't fancied, and as a young player, as a young promising player with stock, I think we'll see Raskin go in the summer.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I think and Stevie Scotty there's just made the point. I think Butland probably is our only sellable asset, 5 million plus. You might have 2 or 3 sitting below that. Your Raskins, your Yilmazes, your Rabbi Matondos. These guys are probably just under that category. But in terms of 5 million plus, and probably what you need to start thinking about doing a rebuild, if it's all right, us sitting here saying needs a full rebuild from end to end. But a rebuild with Bosmans is kind of, that's even harder to do again. Do you know what I mean? So just to for completeness of the question. So Butland, I'm 50-50 whether he'll be here. You're wanting to be here 100%, but we also need to be realistic where we are.
Yeah.
I think this summer is the right time for Tavernier. And I know that I get that it's controversial in the fact that people say, oh, the amount of goals that you'd miss, we'd have to adapt. We'd have to find a new way of playing. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Hopefully we've got a goal scorer that wants to take penalties. Do you know what I mean? This quality of penalty at times is absolutely sensational. I mean, today he's buried that. Do you know what I mean? And the one last week absolutely ripped the net apart, and some big goals in Europe and stuff. So, I just think if we don't win the league this year, I think and even if we do win the league, I just think it's time for a refresh, a bit of a statement to go right. It's a rebuild. We've identified that. If there's a stupid Saudi offer on the table, we're only going to get that type of offer once. And like this could be the summer to kind of do that. Goldson, I agree with Craig. I don't think there'll be a queue of teams looking to take him. So therefore, I don't see him as a sellable asset, and recently signed a new deal. Suter, I think, will be there or thereabouts. Barisic, absolute get him chased. He can go now if he wants it. Lundstrom, 50-50. Dowell, can't foresee whether, I don't know, is he just, if an offer came in from a championship club, would we take it? Brought him in on a Bosman, get $1 million for him? Yeah, I probably would. I think there's better in Scotland, or there's more robust players in Scotland that could probably do a job for us. Cantwell, again, probably falls into the saleable asset, but would need to have a storm at the end of the season. Seaman, would love to see him stay. Dessers, enough is absolutely said about the Nigerian nightmare. Silva, no chance. Matondo, with a decent summer and trying to find out if we can get a bit of consistency out of him. I think Lawrence will be away. I would be no surprise if a championship club in the northwest of England was his next home. Roof, we know, is done as well, just going into the bench, and Sterling needs to be in that 11 from now to the end of the season, but also next year as well. So, yeah, it's grim, isn't it?
You have to say, grim is absolutely. See, when you lay it all out, the job in the summer that Philippe Clement is going to have to do is probably like nothing that we've seen in a long time, because there isn't a pot of gold somewhere that he's just going to be able to continue to dip into and bring in players. So he's going to have to delve really cleverly, hopefully in a market that he's aware of. I know that this week the club have appointed a brand new international scout. He's going to be chock-a-block from now on until whenever he leaves Ibrox. He's going to be a very, very busy guy and key to whatever happens next for the club, and probably for what happens in Philippe Clement's sort of Rangers managerial career. He's going to be really important and critical to any success we have. It'll be interesting to see if Clement's got an into the Belgian markets, the Scandinavian markets, which seems to be an area that we've kind of looked at previously, and indeed is where Diomande has been previously. So the summer is going to be really interesting. Craig, I want to say something to you that Clement said today, post-match. He referred to he's told the players today he expects a different performance on Wednesday. How easy? I
think we all do.
But so my point is, how easy is it to get that different performance? Ultimately, he's going to be using the same personnel, isn't he?
I think you're going to see some slight changes. Obviously, we spoke about Dujon Sterling. There, you might see some shuffling of the deck, I guess, in terms of Seema maybe moving over to the left, Cantwell, Lawrence maybe coming in, just trying to create a wee bit of freshness if we can. And there, we spoke earlier on about the lack of options we've got currently with all the injuries, especially in the forward line. Ridvan Yilmaz, I have no idea how close or how near he is to returning. I keep hearing as though it's days rather than weeks, but games keep passing and there's still no sign of Ridvan. So I'm not entirely sure, but he'd be a massive asset if we could get him back, particularly for the semi-final next Sunday. But I think you've got to try and create a wee bit of freshness, even if it's one or two guys coming in. everyone in that team will know that they didn't put in the level of performance that they're capable of or should be putting in. They'll go out there with a renewed determination. Whether they can, I mean, to be fair, it's probably the first time I've seen a performance of that level since Philippe Clement came in. So it's not a trend. It's not something we've seen 3 or 4 of, and then you're like, they're going to follow that up with another one. I fully expect them to snap out of it pretty quickly, and I'm sure Philippe Clement won't be quiet in telling them about it anyway.
Jamie, same question to you. Changes that you would make for Wednesday based on what you've seen today?
Bloody hell. Sterling definitely into the midfield. We need a bit of pace, power, a bit of strength, bit of dig. Do you know what I mean? I think that midfield's missing that today. If you're not going to pass, you'll pass teams off the park with Campbells, Dowells, and Lundströms as your midfield 3. That midfield 3 would probably get away with it in Europe. Do you know what I mean? As ridiculous as that sounds, if we were playing a Real Betis today, that midfield 3 probably would have been all right. But it's horses for courses, do you know what I mean? What we need sometimes is just a horrible bastard in the centre of the midfield who's just going to absolutely plough through things and show the little bit, because he's more than that, Sterling, do you know what I mean? He's not just someone, he's not a centre half playing midfield. He's athletic, he's quick, he's actually got a trick, and he can actually get a shot away. So therefore we need him in the midfield. That's kind of the first one for me. Unfortunately, that does come at a consolation of probably Barisic slipping in at left back again. And then the number 9 position has to be addressed. For me, I'd be bringing Seema back out to the left. I'd be bringing Roof in, and I'd probably bringing Ross McCausland back in to my high 3. It needs freshened up. Do you know what I mean? It needs spark. It needs imagination. It needs something, and the only way you can do that is by changing the personnel. All of these guys have played with each other enough over the last few months. So I'm not expecting loads of times to see things. You like, oh, you can't make too many changes because it mightn't click. But at the end of the day, you could make 11 changes. If you're playing that game again today and you made 11 changes, you still wouldn't be expecting us to get beat away at Ross County. So, a good few changes. And I want to see a real freshness going into Wednesday. And I dare say I want to go into Wednesday. It's all right saying 3 points and down the road. I want to see us going into Wednesday and winning comfortably. I want to see a good 3-4-5, and I think that's the only way I think it can give us a little bit of hope going into the post-split fixtures, is knowing that, you know what, this team's bounced back and they're at it. This league could very much go to goal difference as well. When Tav scored that goal, I was thinking, you know what, at least that's one more goal back in the goal difference, because imagine stepping at the end of the season and the goal that beat you was a 3rd goal by Ross County, fucking Dingwall. Do you know, like, it would be fucking heartbreaking. So bit of freshness, and see how we go. And I'd also change the back 2 as well. 2 centre halves. I'd certainly bringing in Balogun, whether that's for Souther or Goldson. Flip a coin.
And this is where it becomes. This is for me where it becomes really quite difficult, because I think today's been an afternoon where so many players have just been poor in a game where you would largely have expected them to treat like sort of meat and drink type thing. They would just rock up, they would be fine, and they'd be down the road tonight thoroughly enjoying a 3-1 victory or something like that. And it's been...
Are you going to say a 5, guys, then?
It's been so far the opposite side of the spectrum. It's almost... It just adds to the disappointingness of it. The result in itself is a shocker. The performance, Craig, is I think the thing that's really worrying most for the support going into 5-6 big games between now and mid-May.
Yeah, I think so. I think the performance is what, as GB says, you need a reaction for Wednesday. I think we're 4 goals behind Celtic now. It's either 4 or 5, which you absolutely need to make that up in games like against Dundee, and we'll go to Dens Park again in a couple of weeks' time, and you need to do the exact same thing there. And when we know it can be tricky in home games against the likes of, we're probably going to be at home to Kilmarnock and St Mirren, aren't we? So those aren't easy games to rack up goals, or easy teams to rack up goals against. So Dundee, who always seem to play really openly against us for some reason, those are the games you need to rack up the goals. And JB's changing the full forward line. I think I'd agree. I'm not Ross McCausland's biggest fan. I'm not convinced he will have the impact that we need. But it's kind of who else you got kind of vibes at the moment, and that's the problem. That's always been our problem this season, and I think it's remiss not to. It gets boring talking about injuries all the time, but we've had so many of them that you've barely seen. I don't think we've even seen one game where the full squad's been fit. Not even the first game of the season was the full squad fit. So I think performance-wise, coming up on Wednesday, we absolutely need to see a change. I'm pretty confident that we'll see that performance, but it's then just every game is going to be squeaky bum time between now and the end of the season.
Yeah, listen, we're just about there. So it seems like I'm going to put you both on the spot before we go, and I'm not going to actually say yes we can or no we can't. I'm just going to ask for a percentage. Craig, I'll start with you. Where do you sit on Rangers now winning the league in a percentage? Are you 50-50, 70-30, 90-10? Floor's yours.
I am probably somewhere around the Rangers have a 30% chance of winning the league at this moment in time. Before today, I would have probably said 60%, but it's interesting how quickly that can switch. I'd say I'm probably at the 30% mark. Celtic seem to be not playing well, but grinding out results. And while they have some difficult games ahead, so do we, and it's whether they will drop more points than we will. Can I see us going to Celtic Park and winning? It's a really tall task. I can see us getting a point, but it's a really tall task to see us winning, and then you're relying on other teams, and that's never a place you want to be.
Jamie?
I think I'll just go 50-50, because I think if I put myself any lower, then I think I'll just depress myself. So I'll go 50-50. And that theory is based on a bit like the first and second half of last week. If this Rangers team get the finger out the arse and do what we know they can do, then we've got a chance. If they do what we've seen them do at stages this season, at big moments this season, then that's the 50% that will lose it. We're not up against Real Madrid here. Do you know what I mean? We're not up against a team that, if you look at the Premier League today, I know, again, different world, but is Arsenal lost at home, Liverpool lost at home, even go down to the Championship, Leeds lost against a really poor or average Blackburn side. So there's going to be twists from now to the end of the season. You're going to get injuries, suspensions, all sorts going on. So I do think it's going to be, I do think it's going to go all the way.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of, I think I'm 50-50 just now. It's a really hard one to call. I think what as I said earlier on, the big problem I have today, other than the result, was the desire, the determination, and the mentality just didn't seem to be there for the best part of an hour, as far as I was concerned. That's the concern I have just now. Going into such big games. Do you know what I mean? Wednesday, Sunday right now for a good couple of weeks. They have to get their head in the game. They have to be mentally right. And they have to be keen to add the medals to their cabinet, so that when they get to 37, 38, 39, they're sitting with their kids or their grandkids. I won this medal at Rangers. They have to be able to have that in their locker to share those stories, because if they don't, they'll be disappointing. Very disappointing. Listen, that'll do us for tonight. Sorry, Jamie, were you going to say something there, buddy?
Yeah, I know. I've just got a couple of little shout outs. I appreciate it's not cameo, but what a family friend, Big Sandy, tunes in every single week and watches us. Had a bit of a health scare a couple of weeks ago, so just a big shout out to him. And one of our regular viewers, Lewis, has asked me, could we give him a little shout out as well? So yeah, big shout out to them too, guys.
Hello to them both. Thanks for the support. Jamie, good to have you on, buddy. I appreciate you seeing you on Sunday. Thank you.
Yeah, cheers. Thank you.
And Craig, sort of reverse roles. Good to have you as a contributor, buddy. Thanks very much.
Yeah, it's always fun, and thankfully a wee bit of a cathartic pod as well.
Yeah, it really was. I have to be honest. We had no agenda for tonight, which maybe doesn't surprise you, but we definitely didn't have an agenda for tonight. that will wrap it up. The guys, I'm not entirely sure what we're doing on Wednesday because obviously the Dundee game has been moved to Wednesday, Craig.
I think it'll be me and Ross on Wednesday post-match, so keep an eye out for that one.
You're going to Dens Park on Wednesday night, yeah?
I don't think so. I've almost made that journey twice now. I'm not going to make it a third time.
Yeah, climate change, it can be a right bastard up to side, you know what I mean? Let's be brutally honest. Thanks to everyone who got involved in the comments. Loads of good stuff in there tonight, loads of sensible things, some not so much. And thanks to the Celtic fans who have went out of their way to subscribe to come and join us tonight. It's always good to have you on. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to catch us right across social media. X, Facebook, Instagram, all the obvious places. We're available wherever you get a podcast as well. Do the liking and the subscribing and the notification bell. You'll get a notification each time we go live. And join us again next Sunday when we speak on the Sunday session, post-match, and the Hearts, and hopefully into the Scottish Cup final. Bye for now.